Auston Matthews speaks on his injury and is back on the ice for the Buds. And what New Year's resolutions should the Maple Leafs have for themselves? We'll discuss that and tee up tonight's Islanders game on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leafs centric podcast with myself, Mike DiStefano. Dave Morisuti still out on vacation, sailing the seven seas. He's having a grand old time. Talked to him the other day, wished him a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. He's feeling good. He wanted to make sure that on behalf of himself and myself, that we wish all of our listeners a happy and prosperous 2025. It's already 2025. It's crazy how quickly the year really came and went when you talk about 2024. It's a much different year. It's so much different when you look at how 2024 started compared to 2025, right? New team, new coach, new players, but still the same goal, and that's to win a Stanley Cup here in the city of Toronto. Gonna be a rather quick show. We got a couple of things that we got to get to. There is an Auston Matthews update. He spoke to the media after skating in practice on January 1st on New Year's Day. Got into a full practice, was wearing a gray sweater though, so was not in any contact sweater, and does not expect to play tonight against the Islanders. We'll give you that update. We'll preview tonight's game, Leafs and Islanders Part 2, the home and home. This one going back to New York. We'll preview that game, and it's New Year's Day, or it's the January 2nd, I guess. But the new year, which means it's time to talk about some New Year's resolutions for the Maple Leafs. So I've got a 3-pack of resolutions that I think the Maple Leafs should be focused on in 2025 moving forward. I guess you could throw a bonus one in there as well as a fourth ultimate prize resolution, but we'll get to those in just a second. We'll start with the big update, obviously, and that's with Auston Matthews. He was placed on injured reserve on Tuesday just to make some room so that the Leafs could call up Marshall Refi. They had to do some other structuring. Yanni Hakanpää also ended up getting placed on LTIR as well, so that they could have the necessary cap space to call up a player. Both of those guys will be eligible to come off IR and LTIR whenever, and both were skating with the Maple Leafs. Well, I believe Hakanpää was skating with the developmental staff, but Matthews was skating with the Maple Leafs on Wednesday. Now, again, he's not going to play today against the New York Islanders, so it's not as though he's getting ready to return. And there's really no timeline for a return either, which is kind of concerning if I'm being completely honest. I mean, the fact that he skated a little bit ahead of Tuesday's game against the Islanders and then skated in full with the team, but in a non-contact jersey, just trying to see how things, are how he's reacting to things. Is everything firing on all cylinders before I guess he introduces contact back into the fold here. But the fact that he's skating, but there's still no return at all, even after the practice, is a little bit of a question mark. I know that they've got, pretty much a full schedule for the next week where they're playing every other day. So there's not going to be many full practices for him to get into. It's a lot of travel, and it's a lot of just a lot of like game day skates, not a whole lot of off days for practicing. So, if he wants to wait and get in a couple of full practices before he starts to play again, we're kind of looking at that next week game against Carolina, perhaps. But again, the team hasn't made any notion as to when he's going to play. Auston Matthews has not made any notion as to when he's going to play. But the fact that he's skating on the ice, I guess, you shouldn't expect him to be out too much longer, but still not quite ready to go. But the most concerning thing about it is when Auston Matthews is asked if he feels like the time off, right? He had that 9 games where he was off earlier in the year in November to rest that injury. He went out to Germany to try and make it better. Saw the doctor, worked on him, and was hoping that could put this injury to the side. And he returned, and he wasn't really 100% when he got back. You could tell he was not skating as well as he typically was. He wasn't shooting the puck as hard as he was with as much zip as he can. And it was noticeable that he was not at 100%. And then obviously he ends up tweaking that injury again in that when he took that cross check to Dennis Gilbert. And Matthews did admit that certainly didn't help, is what he said. Matthews, speaking with the media on Wednesday, also mentioned he's working through a couple of different things, and did say that he's just not sure. He's unsure if he can get through whatever ailment he is having during the season, if rest can help him get through this. He's not sure, which means possibly a surgery could be on the horizon. Maybe not this year if they want to try and fight through it, and then maybe the surgery to whatever injury he's having. It's highly speculated that it's a back injury. Maybe that could be on the horizon in the off season, perhaps, but doesn't sound like he wants to go down that route during the season. Is just going to try and manage the injury, but that's not good news if you're the Leafs, because again, it only took him a few games to re-aggravate it earlier before. So he takes a big shot in the playoffs, and all of a sudden you're going to be missing out on Auston Matthews, or you've got a 60% Auston Matthews in playoffs. We've seen what that looks like before. It's not the best, right? Against the Florida Panthers in round 2 a couple of years ago, he was a shell of himself. He could barely skate, and it really did not help the Maple Leafs, and they were awful in that series. If that happens again this year, that's bad news for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They need him to be at 100% or as close to it as possible for him to be the true, rocket goal-scoring, two-way dominant center that he can be. Because when he's not that, the Maple Leafs seriously show that they've got a little bit of a lack of punch, we'll say. The secondary scoring hasn't quite been there. And when he's not scoring, the primary scoring is down by half of what it was, a season ago. So there's the update on Auston Matthews, and it's unfortunate if he's unable to get back to 100% this season. Is it going to end up being a wasted year? Like it is at the utmost importance that this guy is healthy and playing this year, and I'm just not sure if he's going to get to that point, because he's not sure if he's going to get to that point. So that is a bit concerning and worrisome. But that was obviously the headliner from the practice from Wednesday ahead of the game against the Islanders. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who did not play Tuesday against the Islanders due to illness, did practice and is expected to return to the lineup tonight. And again, Yanni Hakanpää skated, but with the development staff, not expected to return. Obviously, he is TBD on that, but was placed on the injured, long-term injured reserve to open up a little bit more cap space. But that's the update from the New Year's skate with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Ahead of the game against the Islanders, we'll come back, tee up that game, and we'll get to some New Year's resolutions for the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's all coming up next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a Leaf game last year. The energy and excitement was unforgettable. Now, Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets to your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. The feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I was able to pick up some Leafs tickets, and it was awesome. Grabbed them pretty cheap just hours before puck drop, and they get cheaper and cheaper as it gets closer to puck drop. Got some 100 level seats, and man, it was a fun game, and I was able to do that all on the Game Time app. You can find amazing deals. You can even see the views from the seat before you buy, and the super deal is particularly impressive, offering great seats on unbeatable prices. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows you the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano here, and Dave Morassutti off today, but he'll be back next week with you guys, and then I'll be off on vacation for that week as well, for the following week. So we're kind of a couple weeks before you get the tag team duo of Mike and Dave back, but the Leafs still chugging on, and they got a game tonight against the New York Islanders, a home and home series. Toronto taking the first one on New Year's Day. It was a little matinee affair. Won that game by a score of 3-1. And it was quite an interesting game, too. I'll be completely honest. The Leafs, I thought they played okay. It was kind of a grinded out game. And that's what you expect against the Islanders and Patrick Waugh. They're going to make it difficult to play against. They kind of packed the middle of the ice and tried to keep everything to the perimeter. And for the most part, it worked. The couple of goals that the Leafs scored, they did have to kind of grind for, especially the David Kampf goal. And then, the Lorentz goal was actually off a good transition play up ice. That was a really nice goal he scored, but not a whole lot of offense on the big boys. That's got to change going into New York tonight. They got to find a way to generate more chances. There wasn't a lot of high danger chances in that game for the Maple Leafs. They got to generate more. They got to get more high danger shots on goal if they want to beat Ilya Sorokin. He's a terrific goaltender, and you got to make sure that you generate those chances, get him moving side to side, and that's the way to beat the goalie. I will say this though, like you look at what Toronto needs to do better, and it's the same thing it's been for pretty much the entire season. They got to get the power play going. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing not to score this New York Islanders power play right now. They've given up a power play goal in 8 of the last 10 games. They've got a power play in the month of December, sub 60%. Sub 60% penalty kill, rather. Sorry about that. Penalty kill of sub 60% for the New York Islanders. So if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, you got to make sure that you bury one of these tonight and win the special teams battle, because the Islanders, that's been an absolute killer for them this year. One of the worst power plays and the worst penalty kill in the NHL. It's at like 62 or 63% on the season. So that's something you got to make sure. Talking about keys to the game, special team success has to be a big key tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the New York Islanders. Who's going to start in net? That's a question that I have. Unsure right now. Obviously, no starter was named yesterday at practice. Dennis Hildeby is currently up with the club, working as the team's number 2, as Matt Murray was sent back down to the American League a couple of days ago. So I guess it's between Hildeby or Joseph Woll. But it's interesting because Joseph Woll in that game on Tuesday kind of he gutted through it, but it seemed like there was some sort of, he felt something. Like that's the best I guess I could put it, is he felt something. I think it was in the second period. You saw him kind of trying to stretch out his leg, his knee, his groin. Something kind of seemed like there was a tweak or a pull. He felt something in that game. Now he gutted it out and he played well. He only gave up a single goal in that game. But do you want to go back to him 2 days later? That's the unfortunate part about Joseph Woll and where we're at right now with his health status is we're always questioning his injury and his durability and his toughness and his ability to play through things and his ability to play in, like 3 or 4 games in a row, because he just hasn't seemed to be able to do that so far throughout his career without some sort of injury popping up. And then when you see that, you see him kind of, stretching out the leg or something, or skating out and shaking out the leg after making a stop. It does kind of make you wince a little and tighten up and think, oh, what's going on here? Because with Stolar's still out for another month. You can't afford a Joseph Woll injury. It just can't happen. I don't think you want to be going the next, couple of weeks here with Hildeby and Matt Murray as your goaltender. So, it'll be interesting to see who they decide to go with in net, whether it's Hildeby or Joseph Woll. But we'll see. We'll see what they end up doing in the game tonight against the Islanders. Yeah, so those are the two things. I think Oliver Ekman-Larsson is set to return to the game after missing out the other day. So that should maybe help too with the power play come in, whether it's PP1 get an opportunity or the second unit get a chance to come in and play. Oliver Ekman-Larsson is always good, and he can provide some offense. You're skating on a third pair with Simon Benoit, so we're going back to Tanev and McCabe. You've got Riley and Phil Myers actually in. And then it looks likely it's going to be Simon Benoit and Oliver Ekman-Larsson as the third pair. So that's what it's looking like. Doesn't look like Pontus Holmberg is going to play, though. He missed practice with an illness yesterday. He'll be a game time decision if that's the case. Probably stick with David Camp as the number 2 center. And he did score a goal in the last game against the Islanders, funny enough, after I kind of ripped him apart for him being, the 2C on the team, saying, things don't look too good with that being the case with him down the middle as the second name. But he scored, and he's defensively responsible and reliable. But yes, it really does go to show when you've got David Camp as your second best option in the top 6 center role, when one of Auston Matthews or John Tavares goes down, how bleak things are down the middle for this team. It's a big reason why they probably weren't able to generate a whole lot of offense. Like, there's just down the middle, it's just not a lot. Like, I guess Max Domi can move up into one of those roles, but that third line has been buzzing of late, and Berube doesn't really want to touch it, wants to keep it going, see if they can continue to find some confidence and some strides and continue to score, ride it while it's hot, I guess. And eventually in the game Tuesday against the Islanders, he broke it up and he put Max Domi up the lineup a little bit, but we'll see what he ends up doing going into tonight's game. In practice, they remained together and Camp was at 2C. I would think that they'll start the same way. And then again, if things don't change and if they can't generate a lot of offense and they need to start scoring a little more, then I would imagine we'll see some lineup changes and probably see Max Domi move up a little bit into that 2C role more than likely. So that's tonight's game against the Islanders. It'll be at 7 to 7:30 puck drop on the island. Should be fun. But on the other side, like I said, it's a new year for the Maple Leafs, and New Year's comes with New Year's resolutions. I've got a 3-pack for you on New Year's resolutions for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll get to that next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, which is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers can finish the season with a $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. You can go ahead tonight. If you like the Maple Leafs to win the game against the Islanders, place a $5 wager. If they win, you win $250 in bonus bets, which is a pretty solid offer. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano here, running a solo show for you guys to start off 2024 and 2024 or 2025 rather. We ended 2024. We're now into 2025. It always takes me a couple of weeks to kind of figure out the date there and always say the right one. Or in school, when you're writing the date on the top of all your tests and whatnot, you always ended up writing 2024 for the first 2 weeks of school. And I feel like now it's going to be, it's kind of the same as an adult when I'm speaking of the year. 2025 is, it's still fresh and doesn't roll off the tongue as easily as 2024 did. That being said, it's a new year and we got some New Year's resolutions. That's what everyone likes to do, right? What can we do to make ourselves better in 2025? And there's really a 3-pack that I put together for the Maple Leafs that, they should be hoping for in 2025, right? And the number one thing, honestly, that you should be hoping for is what everyone hopes for when the new year rolls around. And that's good health, right? Wishing you all good health and happiness in 2025. That's what you hear from everybody. But that's really what the Maple Leafs need. Stay freaking healthy. You look at what the season has been, and it's been an absolute gong show in terms of players getting injured throughout the season. There was that one portion in November where the Leafs were down 7 of their 12 regular forwards who started opening night. Absolutely outrageous. And, it's kind of continued throughout the season. Like now you've got Auston Matthews on injured reserve, and Auston Matthews unsure of when he's going to come back, if his injury is going to last throughout the season, if he can get healthy, if he's going to be at 100% at any point throughout the season. It's not good if you're a Maple Leafs fan. So staying healthy, getting healthy, all that, wishing good health in 2025 for the Maple Leafs, because it's not just Auston Matthews, the goaltending situation. Joseph Woll can't go, a couple of starts apparently without Leafs Nation getting a little anxious whenever he makes a stretch or, kind of winces in his net after making a save or making a stretch to get a stop. That's where we found ourselves, Tuesday afternoon against the Islanders. Looks like he's okay. Battled through and is expected to be in the lineup tonight, whether it's as the starter or as the backup. He's expected to be around. But, Joseph Woll is injured and or Anthony Stolarz is already injured. So getting him healthy would be good. And then keeping Woll healthy, Woolley and Stoley, that was the top goaltending tandem in the NHL prior to the injury. And if they can get back, stay healthy, they can mask a lot of the problems that Toronto has. And there are some problems when it comes to Toronto. Secondary scoring has been one of them, which leads me to my second resolution for the Maple Leafs, and that's find a middle six center. You got to find some more offense down the middle, because you can't get to a point here where you're looking at, David Kampf playing top 6 minutes at center. I know there's an injury, and he wouldn't be otherwise, but the fact that they're only one injury away from that happening just goes to prove how lackluster their center depth really is. And a couple of names that make sense to me that come to mind. We've talked about them before, but I think like Brock Nelson, like you're going to watch him tonight. Watch Brock Nelson in this game against the Islanders, and don't tell me that he wouldn't be a great fit here for the Maple Leafs. He's a pending unrestricted free agent. I think he'd be fantastic. He's a two-way center. He can kill penalties. He can win faceoffs. He's got a 54% faceoff win rate this year. He can score goals. Former 3-time 30 goal scorer. I think he's got 10 or 11 this season. I like Brock Nelson. He's a good find, I would think, as a potential middle six. I don't know if Lou Lamoriello's in the business of making deals with the Leafs, but that would be one name to keep an eye on. Potentially even JG Pajot as a good third line center that you could bring in, who has shown, the ability to have a wee little bit of offense. Yanni Gourde's kind of in the same mold as a JG Pajot. And then, Ryan O'Reilly is a name that will always continually be brought up because A, he's been here before. B, he's the exact type of player that Toronto needs. And he's got an unbelievable relationship with Coach Craig Berube from their time in St. Louis, where Ryan O'Reilly won the Conn Smythe under the tutelage of Craig Berube when they both won a Stanley Cup in St. Louis. So, those are kind of four names that I've been kind of plopping around. And if the Leafs are to find a middle six center to help, someone who can provide some offense, but also be defensively responsible, those are kind of the names that I've been keeping an eye on. So there's the second resolution. And then the third one, I think this team needs to find another top 4D to play with Morgan Rielly. And it's funny because we thought we had found the Rielly partner in Chris Tanev. We talked about it all summer. Morgan Rielly finally has a partner in Chris Tanev. And then all of a sudden the season rolls around. They play a couple games, it gets separated, then they put Tanev and McCabe together, and they've formed a really good, shutdown pair, like an excellent shutdown pair. Their numbers, the underlying numbers are phenomenal in terms of expected goals against and the high danger chances, or the lack of high danger chances that they allow. They don't allow a whole lot. And it's forced those two to stick together, for Berube to put those two together on a line and keep them together. But then that's also left Morgan Rielly partnerless again. And it's been a rotation of players on Morgan Rielly's right side, whether it's Oliver Ekman-Larsson or it's been Connor Timmins at times. It's been, like it's going to be Philip Myers tonight. It's been another rotation cast of characters. Yanni Hakanpää has had a couple of games with Morgan Rielly to see if that works. And maybe if Hakanpää comes back, they try that again. I think that was, something that they wanted to do if he could stay healthy, which again goes back to the health resolution. But I still think they need to go out and address this once and for all. And again, we look at a couple of players that would make some sense. I mean, O'Reilly made a lot of sense bringing back to bring him back. Same with Luke Schenn. You can kind of kill two birds with one stone and make that one trade with the Nashville Predators and bring back two former Maple Leafs who did play a big role in them winning their one and only playoff round in the last 20 years. So if you can bring back a Luke Schenn who played excellent with Morgan Rielly, he provided a lot of toughness for the team, provided some defensive prowess, and really stabilized Morgan Rielly and allowed him to actually play his best hockey, what I would argue, of his career in the couple of months that they played together, especially that playoff series against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Morgan Rielly was unbelievable, and his partner at the time was Luke Schenn. So if I were Brad Treliving and I were the Maple Leafs, I would really be trying to push it, and I'd be calling to see what it would take to get Schenn out of Nashville. I don't think it would take a whole lot. Right? He's not making a lot of money. He's making a little bit more than you would like. But honestly, I think to round out your top four, to get a player of that caliber that works well and has chemistry with Morgan Rielly would make a lot of sense to me. And the other player, I guess, would be David Savard from out in Montreal. He's a good penalty killer as well, right shot defenseman, veteran. He's won a cup. So he's definitely another option, I suppose, if Luke Schenn is not available or the Maple Leafs don't want to bring on that much term, I guess makes some sense. I believe David Savard is a pending UFA himself. So those would be kind of the two options that I've kind of got my eye on. But yeah, when it comes to 2025, if this team wants to reach the ultimate goal, which should be the ultimate resolution, right? A bonus fourth resolution here, win a Stanley Cup, possibly in the year 2025, that would be outstanding. That should be the goal, at least for this Maple Leafs team. But if they don't get good health and they don't find some more center depth and they don't get themselves a partner for Morgan Rielly, another guy to stick on the right side in the top four, I don't think they're going to be able to complete that fourth bonus resolution of winning a Stanley Cup. But you do those three things, you give yourself a heck of a lot better of a chance. So stay healthy, find a middle six center, find another top four right shot defenseman who's got defensive capabilities, and I think that puts you in a pretty good spot if you are the Maple Leafs going forward. All right, that will do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. And you can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. But until then, enjoy the game tonight. Leafs Islanders. Go Leafs go. And we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.